thickest piece in your packet. Okay, Julie, I think everybody has it.
Okay, I want to start off with talking about the property values for Missouri County that we got for our district. Back in 2023, it was $2,071,000. Last year it was 2.2, and this year it's 2.346 for property values. Most of that, the majority of it is from new businesses. While we did have a rate increase last year, it was more due to property values going up. This year it's due to new properties being built and coming in. So that's what we use for local property values. I think the total was 2.7, but that's before they've gone through the appeals process. So that's kind of our values. But if you look at page 1, I think it's pretty, nothing really has changed here since our budget workshop. We're still looking at state funds at $12,548,815. And then our miscellaneous revenue has also stayed the same. The only thing that might have changed is our instructional material allotment. That number, you know, the instructional material for 2 years, and this is what's left over from our original. So it would have gone up about $200,000, I think, from what I had on there just as a placeholder. And so that brought our grand total of all funds to $39,354,944. And then on page 2, our expenses, and none of this has changed. We might have tweaked some numbers and kind of trued up our CTE budgets and things that we have to spend a certain percent on. But it leaves us with a deficit budget of $1,148,490. And then if you look on page 3, it just shows you our revenues for the past 4 years, and then what we project for this year, and you really kind of see how back from 2020 up through 2023, the difference in what the state funds are. So the state's contributing less most years, and then our difference is made up from our local funds, and that's increased a little. Now, the reason why the tax revenue went down for this year is because of the homestead exemption that they put into effect for the $100,000. So it goes down a little bit, and that's the difference in why those have changed. Everything else is pretty
That cost us $4.5 million. The exemption. Wow.
The majority of that is the exemption. And then you see the state didn't make up the full difference there. And then on page 4, it's the same thing except showing our expenses and the difference in those year over year. This year, I think it in total went up about 7%. Our expenses did, which you'll see that on page 5. It'll show you the difference between last year and this year's budget. And then page 6, that's just showing you the cost by fund and function and what our payroll is, you know, for each function, what we spend on contracted services, supplies and materials, and then other operating costs. It just breaks it out just a little bit more.
Just for benefit of Greg, when we look at expenses, correct me if I'm wrong, but like guidance counselors and that, you see where it's kind of made a a big jump this year, but whenever we had that extra money that came from COVID, we had moved some of the salaries and stuff with extra money and took it out of our budget. That was federal and state money we got from the COVID situation. And so now that's coming back into the budget. And so that's why it looks like it's a huge increase, or a larger increase this year. But it's always been, it was supplemented by, like I say, ESSER, which is a grant type funding they gave us due to COVID.
Yeah, it's not.
Is that right?
It's not new positions,
No,
that's
it's
correct.
not new.
That's correct.
And some of it was, we, after Esther, then we moved it into SHARs.
Right.
Some of them into SHARs, and so if you look at the SHARs budget, you can see where like our function 11 has dropped a lot, from 700,000 last year to 230 this year. So you can see where we've moved that around as well.
Yep.
So it's not, like you said, new positions, it's just coming from different funds.
You referring to the functional 31, function 31?
Yes.
And then you looked at it, function 11 at the bottom was 702, and then went down to 233.
And so that accounts for some of your increase up here, the 7% increase in your instructional and general fund, because we've moved some of those people back up there.
What's function 12 to library? That's just for,
Most of it in the library that's just the librarian salary.
Okay.
That's in SHARs. The rest of it is, up in general fund. That includes, we have, for our elementary, we have 2 paras that work the library because the librarian is over all elementary. And so we have paras that work in there. Their salaries are still in function 11 in general fund.
okay.
And then the remainder of that is for, books or supplies for the library. We just put the 3 librarians down in SHARs, where we all wanted me to use about 300,000 of it.
So the functional 11 underneath the 410, the instructional materials and alignment, is that the same as up top?
No, 410 is what we get from the state for instructional materials. And every 2 years when they meet in session, legislative session, they tell us how much we're going to get for the next 2 years.
Greg, back when your kids were in school, the state we would turn in a textbook order, right? And we'd say we have 500 kids in English 1, and we would get English 1 textbooks. Years ago, the state quit doing that, and they give you what's called an instructional materials allotment now. And it's for 2 years, and we buy our instructional materials. It's kind of a reimbursement type program. The money's ours, it's not in our bank account. We turn in, we get refunded for it from the state.
So if you don't use it, you don't get to put it somewhere else.
That's correct. It can only be used on
So we use
instructional
it for,
materials.
I think we've used it for Chromebooks and
Right.
different programs they use, Ingenuity and
Yeah,
different things.
can't
like
be used
that.
for salaries.
Covered, yeah, can't be used for salaries. Has to be some kind of teaching material. All right, any other questions or comments? Before we close it, Linda sent me an email, text, excuse me. And I was gonna read it on the other, but I'm gonna read it this time. She said, Please make an eloquent statement regarding my support of the budget. And I told her back and said, I'm from Wild Peach, so I'm gonna read what you wrote. She said, let them know I'm out of town, but I am in full support of the decision to pass the budget. It's unfortunate the state has the power to help us, but they chose not to. We will still take care of our students with or without the state with the best efforts we can. So I just wanted to share her thoughts. If there's no questions or comments, then I will adjourn the public meeting.
Got to do
Federal programs.
federal.
So, real quickly, federal programs, one of the things that we need to do is to tell you about these are actually revenues we get, federal revenues that we get in from different programs. You do have one of these sheets in your packet that says public meeting federal grants on the top. So the first program that I'm going to talk about today, or the federal grant, is Every Student Succeeds Act, which is ESSA. The purpose of that is to ensure quality education for all students. This year, I believe we're getting about, between all the different titles, we're getting about $625,000 from that program. And those funds are used, we use those funds for instructional coaches, online programs to teach English students, our ESL kids, new staff mentoring, some professional development for our new staff. It helps covers costs with our district behavior program that we have, family and parent engagement, and ongoing professional development. The next program that I'd like to talk about is IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Act, and we bring in about $630,000 from that federal grant. The purpose of that is to make available a free and appropriate public education to our children with disabilities. So this goes to fund our SPED programs. Help fund our SPED programs. So use of funds, how we use that money is teachers and paraprofessionals' salaries to support in-class instruction for students with disabilities, and then also contract with related service and assessment providers so that we can provide resources for those kids as well. The next program is not necessarily something we get in of money value to give you, we just have to do it so that we can get E-rate funds. And that's the Children's Internet Protection Act, or the Children's Online Private Protection Act, SIPA or COPA. And the purpose of that is to protect children from inappropriate material on the internet. And so what we do, we use those things. We have web filtering, we limit personal access. In other words, we lock certain things down. We have our monitored use, which we're able to run reports to see who's on what, when, where, and how. And limited email capabilities of students under the age of 13. And the last federal program that I'd like to talk about is the Perkins Career and Technology. We roughly get about, I believe our budget this year is about $33,000 out of that account. Usually it's anywhere between $30,000 and $33,000. And the purpose of that is to expand opportunities for students to explore, choose, and follow career and technical education programs and programs of studies. And we use that money for, we don't really pay salaries out of that. A lot of that goes to our dual credit counselor, part of one expense, educational supplies, and travel for our different programs. So that's just a review. We're required to have this public meeting every year regarding these federal grants. So if you have any questions at this time.
Since you talked about dual credit counselors, just remember, we're going to have we've shared this dual credit counselor for
As long as I've been in
this position for almost 20 years with Sweeney ISD and Brazos-Sport College. This year, for the first time ever, we'll have our own full-time dual credit counselor here. And so, as you've seen through a lot of our dual credit things, number one, we pay for dual credit for all kids now as long as they're doing the things they're supposed to do at school and meet the criteria. Number two, our enrollments are up a little bit. And remember, we've changed, we're 100 for academic, what we'll call academic dual credit, we're 100% online now. So those students, if they're taking in class, they're available to get a study hall during the school day at Columbia High School. And so having that dual credit counselor on campus 100% of the time is just going to help us maintain the growth in that area and get better.
And Brazosport pays for that, counselor?
It's shared between us and
Shared
Brazosport
between-
College.
Oh, okay.
We should have
That's correct.
Okay. Any concerns or comments on that? If not, now I'm going to adjourn the public meeting. And we will go into our regular meeting at this time. If you'd rise, I'll ask Jackie to give us invocation.
Please bow your heads. Lord, we come to you this evening, just thankful that we all can be here for the benefit of our district and to benefit the children. We want, obviously, to give them all that they can in order for them to succeed and anything that they would like to do. We, we ask that we come to you tonight, that even when we may not always agree, that we are respectful of each other's opinions and that we are safe during the coming weather. We thank you for this time and be with us tonight, tomorrow, and in the coming days. Amen.
Amen. Show me the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. And so we made a little change in the agenda, the way it's laid out now. We moved our approval of minutes down to the action items, so we will go into recognitions.
So tonight, I don't believe we have any 226 recognitions, but we do have some campus communications, correct? No campus communications either? All right. So we're moving on into reports then.
Okay, anybody sign up for citizen be heard? Nope, okay, then we'll go into reports.
Maintenance report, Mr. Williams.
We have a complaint. There's
Yes.
a leak right here in front of the door.
Or police officer on the wet.
The high school project is moving forwards. So far, we're on schedule. Nothing new, nothing really concerning regarding all that. I am working with them on some other side projects, which I think you've all been privy to. The water line at Wild Peach Elementary from the water well back up to the campus. We've gotten some pricing on that. Pretty outstanding pricing to replace that line, and I think the question rose, would it even be advantageous to go ahead and just install a new well? So I met with Mr. Dale Felder from Felder Water Well today. He's looked and addressed that well. It is 40 years old. It was there, from the get-go. They've done some work to it. They've acidized it because it ran dry, collapsed. He said, look, you're running on bonus years. 25 years is your average. With that being said, he did agree moving it much closer to the facilities would be advantageous or adventurous. We've identified a location that would be suitable, which would be minimal piping from that location to the campus. He is going to compile some numbers together for me on that so that we can present that to you guys and see how you feel about it. But I do prematurely say this, I do feel that it's going to be much less of a cost than it would be to replace those existing lines.
You think it's gonna be less?
Yes.
Cool, but from the history,
Yeah.
because Dell has worked on this before and what we know, I think it's very clear that the replacement and the new well is the way to go.
First thing right off the bat, there's about a 3,000 gallon storage tank out there. The lining is probably deteriorated, and if that was to be TCU inspected, it's not gonna pass. We'd be required to replace it. You could be looking at 50 grand just for a tank of that size. So I'm told. There are other number of factors out there that's just aging condition is contributing to the decline of it. And so it's in our best interest to really look into that, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's the second coming of Jesus. It's coming.
So if they move that closer, they can probably even go down to a smaller tank, huh?
I don't know, I mean, capacity, I mean, that's a lot of usage at that campus.
They should be able to go down to more of a plastic type tank or something like around that old metal one that's out there, I would think.
Possibly, good question, I'll bring that up to him and see if that would help us in any fashion, if they even make a tank that size.
And it's
what? compliant with any kind of-
We bought two 2,500 gallon tanks up in Kerrville for the ranch, and they're the plastic ones and stuff like that, and they're very economical.
They're pressurized?
No, those are not.
Ours aren't. They hold water, and then it goes into a pump system that forces the water
Yeah, you
through.
use probably a shallow well pump. there.
Usually.
Yeah, so we fill it up with the shallow well, and then we have a
Pump.
existing pump that pumps it into the house and stuff like that.
I would care to venture that if it's a tank big enough that it's going to be pressurized, it's going to have to be so thick that it's not going to be any cheaper than a steel tank.
Right.
But good question, I'll
Yeah,
find
no,
out.
he's a professional. He'll quote us what we need, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm leaning on his experience, he knows more about it than I do, so.
Do you know what size well we currently have? Is it a 4-inch?
6-inch.
It's a 6-inch?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he replaced.
We were talking about that, we wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's a 6-inch, and he said he thought it was in the neighborhood of 350 to 400 foot deep. He couldn't remember off the top of his head. He apologized for not doing his homework before he got there, but he's just going off of memory work. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really good water right there. I mean, by my house, it's not too far from there, 497. So I'm
Okay.
probably in that 450 to 490 foot range. What it's gonna be.
At any rate, he's going to put some numbers together on there with some different options, including, the new foundation slab for the well, new house for the tanks, the chlorine pumps, all the other bells and whistles that goes with it. Now, his extent and ending of all that project would terminate at the piping, so we would still have to get a plumber to come in and replace that short section of pipe underground,
What kind of run were y'all talking about?
100 foot
Nice.
versus the 1,500 that we have now. So, and then.
That's a long ways down. I drove it out to the beach. That's at the other end of the property.
Yeah, why it was put that far
I
back?
was thinking it was the one where the sewer plant was, but it's further down than the sewer plant is.
It's there on the corner now,
Yeah.
close to you. Why it was put down there, who knows? But anyway, he's gonna put all that together. And the only other additional,
Yeah, the electric.
yeah, that's what we said. The only other additional deal is we would have to add another electric meter, utility pole there to service that, because there's not enough electrical on campus easily accessible to get out there.
I mean, I'm sure the board all feels the same way, even if it costs more than what the pipe is, and you have a brand new water well, to me, that makes sense.
So then that raises the question is, what do we do with the existing? Do we leave it as a backup? Do we cap it and plug it?
I don't think you would cap it and plug it, but I don't think you would really worry about trying to fix that,
Yeah.
that line coming in there. I mean, you never know what's gonna end up over there on that backside of that property one day.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, all that's in the works. So as that stuff comes together, hopefully the next few weeks, and I'll have some answers. We can bring it back and have discussions on it.
Is that concrete cased?
Yes, yes.
It is.
So,
There's concrete there, so I'm gonna assume
I'm
it's
talking about the
cased.
casing. Is it going to have to be concrete cased?
On that, I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. 50 foot, right, 50 foot down, or 100 foot down, one of those.
yeah.
Because it's commercial.
Yeah, commercial probably 100 feet down. Yeah, and you've got that wastewater treatment plant over there. Yeah.
But ain't that all above ground?
Yeah, but you still have setbacks off of it.
Is it
That's a long
100
ways.
on that?
Is it, what,
Probably 100.
Probably, yeah. So since we're getting a new well, are we gonna go out for bid or,
We're depending on the price, that we're probably gonna have to.
okay,
We'll have to use the competitive bidding, and we'll probably have to write some specs and do an RFP or, if somebody's on a buy board, which I don't
I didn't think to ask, but I doubt anybody local is on that.
I just-
Call.
wanna make sure Goolsby gets a chance, cause they're in Wild Peach, they pay school taxes,
Sure.
so I wanna
and
make
there's
sure
2
they
or
get a
3
bid.
wonderful people in the
Yeah.
area. You know,
We'll see what
I don't know if
preliminary
y'all
pricing,
follow that or not, but.
we'll see what preliminary pricing is gonna be. If it looks like it does go to the point that we're gonna have to do RFP, then we'll put it out, make sure that everybody gets a copy of it so that they get the
I
chance.
think even before it gets to that point, I'd still like to give people that pay taxes in CBISD
Okay,
a chance to bid on it too.
well, I'll make that call tomorrow.
Did he give you a time frame? Like, get all the permitting and stuff done? It's probably a while.
He did not, but I would imagine several months. I don't know the process of that. I've never been through it before, so it's through my first rodeo.
Yeah,
I didn't think to ask that.
It's gonna be a good 6 months.
What I thought. Do you feel that well that we have currently will last with minimal repairs to get us through?
Yeah, I mean, it's still operational, and the lines that are there now we currently do not have any leaks. Just when we get those really hot, dry summers and the ground starts shifting,
Right.
invariably, we end up with a shifted pipe that's busted, and we have to shut everything down, dig it up, because there's no isolation valves and no backup for the campus, so
Right.
we have to drain it, fix a leak. That takes several hours, even for the glue to dry. And so it's an all-day affair just to get water back. So currently, we don't have any leaks, and we hope to keep that up.
So what, do you feel that we should keep that as a backup well?
I'm on the fence with it. I mean, a new system, I would keep it for at least a year, because, you know, it's just like a new car. You always have something that has to be addressed. You take it back to the dealer to get fixed. And I feel that it'd be pertinent to us to keep that well on standby for at least a year to work all the kinks out of the new one. But then after that, then we could probably reevaluate, make a decision there. But I would trust the new well. I don't know that we would necessarily have to keep the old, it'd just be an idea, but there is maintenance costs associated with keeping it, you know, on standby. Then that still leaves us with that 1,500-foot old pipe, so if we have to use it, we may have leaks.
Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Other than that, we talked about the last time the E3 project with the HVAC and lighting. We are halfway, I say we, they are halfway done with the mechanical side of it, compiling all that. We have identified all the sports lighting upgrades. They have compiled a plan together on that. Now, our next step is this week, probably punted to next week, depending on the weather, is the electrician will come out and have to meg that existing wire and load center to make sure that it will support all these LED lights. So granted, you know, the football field, we have a one pole that has 8 or 10 lights on there, but they broadcast out pretty wide. LEDs are kind of focused, so you have to add more lights, but they are more efficient. But we just got to make sure that what we have will support those lights, and that's the next part of that. They should have final information, proposals and everything for us by mid-July to mid-August. And if you give me just a second, I'll read you what he wrote me today regarding the SECO proposal. I had it memorized and I forgot, I'm sorry.
I have the official document.
We will be finishing the SECO utility assessment report over the next month and come back with a final project in July and August. That's, the wheels are still in motion on that. It's just a lengthy process. It just takes a lot of pencil whipping and you know, behind the desk data entry things to put it together.
I did receive the official contract from Seco this week.
I got it as well, and I made sure that Jerry had a copy of it. So, other than that, I don't really have much new to speak of unless you have anything that you'd like to talk about. Perfect.
What's your summer plans? Are y'all gonna wax the floors like you usually do and all that kind of stuff? You routine summer?
Yeah, we're in the midst of all those projects now. As a matter of fact, as part of this construction, they've had to disconnect the existing chiller. So area B and C does not have air conditioning. It's sitting over here in the parking lot. They just have to move it for construction reasons. But in the meantime, we've got some water leaks and some old piping in the C building for the science labs that we're going in and gutting and replacing as we can get to it until it gets to the point it's so hot in there it's unbearable. But we're getting a half a day at least out of that. So yeah, summer projects are still moving forward, cleaning projects, all that's still in progress. It's, as far as that aspect, it's just another summer.
Okay.
Nothing really held up.
Good deal.
During the off season, we PMs on refrigeration and stuff
Oh, yeah.
during the off season?
We do that quarterly anyway. Wash coils, change filters, bearings, belts, go through, and I'm not gonna say go through a fine tooth comb, but pay specific attention to key components of equipment to make sure it's not failing or identify any potential threats.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank y'all.
Safety and security report.
All right, just some things that we're wrapping up. So the shatter resistance film update, they're supposedly gonna be done by Friday. Looks like this. They are supposed to be done by this Friday. We're gonna do a walkthrough on Monday. My bet is that they're not done, but I'm hoping that they are. But we'll find out next Monday where we are in that regard. That's something it's a project that's been going on since November of last year. So we're looking forward to getting that wrapped up. But we finally got the silent panic alert technology done. That was actually completed in April. We're setting up training. We'll be setting up training with DataBox with the campus administrator so that they'll be able to roll that out to their staff when everybody gets back on campus. Those two things are the last two requirements that we had to get done in order for us to qualify for the Cycle 2 grant. Well, we would have got the Cycle 2 grant anyways, but we couldn't spend that money on salaries. You recall, in the last week when we were talking, we did get that Cycle 2 grant for $150,000. And we were able to, because we've done the things we've done, we've been able to put that money into salaries. To pay for police officers, so that'll help the budget for the year. That's because y'all allowed us to do a lot of things. Then we had money from the Silent Panic Alert Technology Grant and the School Safety Standards Grant, the first one, that we were able to get a lot of things done. And because of that, we've been able to roll that money for this year into the salaries to help out with the budget. The Bullhorn project. The bullhorns at Barrow are working. That's been going on since October, just so you know. They are working on the horns at the junior high. However, that's a problem. They're tracing the wires back to figure out one of the main splitters is out, and they can't figure out which one. They've been working on that for about a week, so that's the next project. Hopefully, they'll get that done here in the next couple weeks. Since they've actually showed up to work, it's gone pretty quick. So, but we've had, in the construction project at the high school, some lines were cut, and we don't have horns in the cafeteria. We need a couple horns in strategic places at the high school that we don't have because some lines were cut. So we're gonna have them come out and put those in those places and make sure we have ability to communicate with our kids at specific times when we're talking about in the lunchroom and the cafeteria.
Is this our IT guys doing it, or is this outside?
No, this is outside.
Okay.
One of the things we have to do is our exterior door audit. We have to do that twice a year. We sent the templates out to the campuses. The time frame on that is for that to be done by early to mid-July so that they can get work orders into Justin so that they can get in and get those doors fixed to make sure that all of our doors are operational and closing properly and locking properly before the school year is done. And then the last thing I have for you is the summer safety and security meeting will be in July 24th, 2024. I'll send invitations out. You can make it. We'd love for you to come. That's all I have. Chief Sanders is not here tonight. His report is also submitted in the folder for you.
So I put in the board letter as well, that Chief Sanders did receive information from Precinct 4 Constable James Bronner's office that we will be receiving a donation of a 2015 F-150.
Oh, nice.
It is decked out, meaning radio and so forth. It has lights and so forth. Has everything we need. The only thing we'll have to do is put graphics on the outside.
Wow.
So, and that donation has already been approved by Commissioner's Court, so we're good to go.
Good deal.
sponsored Dvorak, that means you don't have to drive the big truck anymore. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Instructional report?
We did in the packet, or the only thing I have for you are the preliminary STAR scores. I gave those to you last week in the meeting as well, when we were talking about goals and so forth. So, just wanted to share those with you. Again, not final, still preliminary. Meaning they haven't been cleaned up yet, so forth.
When do we usually get the final ones?
September-ish, October-ish, whenever.
So for the preliminaries, what do you guys think about it?
Jeff, high school?
Mixed bag. There's some good, there's some bad. We're seeing that our algebra and English ones where we need to focus our attention. Continue to see the growth with the English 2 group from English 1 when they performed well last year, but they grew again in English 2. So we're seeing that growth in English 2. We're seeing biology and US history maintain those high levels. So now we need to focus on those freshman classes, and I think we need to hit them from the beginning of the year to help get them ready for the rigor of.
Would English 1 be the 8th grade reading people moving up, or is it different?
Yes. Yes, that's the 8th grade. And the algebra 1 is the 8th grade math, not the 8th grade algebra.
Okay. Questions, comments? You keep smiling. I don't hear what you have to say.
My smile wasn't so you would ask me, but no, I mean, I think we were overall slightly disappointed because we didn't perform as well as we did last year. But there were several areas that we did better than we had the year previous, so we maintained some of the growth. And we did have some growth from our 4th grade reading cohort to our 5th grade reading cohort. And we were above the state in 5 out of 7 areas for the state average. So I felt like we did a decent showing to keep on improving.
Mrs. Serio?
I'll go with the mixed bag of feelings.
Oh, you're gonna take the easy route. Don't go something new. Okay, there.
We definitely had some target areas that we knew that we wanted to target going with history. From last year, we've made some changes. We have some changes still to make. We need to really target our math. And come up with some intervention pieces. And we're looking at master schedule to see where we can get some more time for those students, because we know that we have some gaps in those core classes. So really spending a lot of summertime looking at the scores and trying to design backwards to figure out how to help our students.
When I looked at them, I agree with you. I think it was a mixed bag, because some of them really did good. The thing that confused me, just in general, was it seemed like we were very good in the first round of goal to succession, second round goal to succession, and the third, the goal to succession. Some of them were right on target, and some of them missed, I would say, fairly significantly in my mind from that, and that just kind of confused me when it looked like so many things were aligning up right on that. And so I'm sure it puzzled y'all too, and I'm sure you're gonna look at it and reevaluate.
Yeah, so, this year, one of the things that the puzzle was a redesign of the test.
Yeah, we were unknowns that we had.
You had situations of where, as an example, say one test had always had 52 questions on it, and it came out this year and had 32 on it. So when that happens, not only does it throw you for a loop, but what got cut, right? And then everything counts a whole lot more. So when you talk about puzzles, the answer to that is yes.
And,
Yeah, some of our early scores were very deceiving. Like our first run on our release, those scores were higher than I ever would have estimated or guessed that they would be. So I think psychologically it does something to a teacher to think, oh, I've got this.
Yeah.
We're sitting pretty, we're sitting good, but that was a release test that had never actually been tested. And so it gave us, I think, a false sense of security.
But again, when you're using a release test that was 52 questions and not 32 like the one, so even.
There's too many moving parts.
Right, even what the state's giving you to use is different than what we tested with, right?
No.
So, yeah.
So do you think next year they would be more in line?
We
Or
hope.
I mean, I know we don't know, I'm just, you know, y'all hear a whole lot about
The
it. more than we do.
the answer to that should be yes.
Yes.
You know.
The accountability manual shouldn't be changing from what they released, so hopefully we're playing the same game this year as we were last year.
Yeah, I don't, I didn't go, I don't have last year's scores, but looking from memory, it appeared to me in a lot of grade levels that we were a lot closer to state averages than we had been in a lot of them in the past.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, the majority of the scores statewide as far as state averages went down. There's no doubt about that.
So, I'm not disappointed like that, I just was curious in y'all's thoughts. Like I say, I know y'all put a lot of hard work and effort in. I know you each year critique and refine y'all's situations you do, so I have nothing but compliments on y'all. Like I say, a lot of them were very good and exceeded goals that y'all had set for those particular ones, so.
But as we get towards August and the beginning of school, you'll see some more detailed reports from us.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll go to the financial report. Are we gonna have one, or just go straight?
Got anything?
Pretty much, we're still, on our expenses, we're still about 3.2% under what we had projected. Our revenue is still under. Our local taxes, we might not reach what we projected and receive just because they're slow pay. We have a lot of lawsuits still going on. But our state programs, I feel like, we'll get the remainder of what we have left to collect.
So at year end, or what's your projection as far as what will be? I mean, you've been giving us a range. I don't know if it changed from last week or still.
No, it's.
Wasn't it about 200 short is what we thought?
No, I think it'll be about 250 going into fund balance.
Okay, over, okay.
I think.
Okay. So at worst case, you feel like we'll break
Again,
even?
that's just a projection.
I understand.
Throw it out there.
I will say that, in your tenure here at our district and the new finance program that y'all have, in Mo Casey and other people that we utilize now, I feel more comfortable that the numbers that the board gets from you is better than the numbers we've ever gotten on my tenure on this board. So I feel very comfortable when you make an educated guess. It may be off a little, but it's not going to be off hundreds of thousands of dollars, I don't think. So I appreciate what you do and the time and effort that your department and administration does to get us fairly accurate numbers. So thank you very much. Bond 22 report?
Don't really have anything for you other than kind of an updated finance. This is Virgil's template. It is in your, again, that just gives you, again, starting at the top right, the 100% budget, the 63,591,026, which was the approved construction budget. Other things in there for the A&E, which is architectural engineering, the testing technology, and FF&E, which is basically the things we'll be putting like furniture and so forth in the building, which brings you to the total of 76,722,347. Again, the bond project, the total that we've sold bonds for is 79, so that puts you at a 2.277 variance. Including in that, again, y'all indicated you want to keep track of the allowances. And as we go through there, that 100% budget had the construction budget as approved had allowances of basically 4.9 million. I gave you this document in May at the May board meeting. You can see at that time the allowances had gone to 6.4, and then as of today, the allowances are at 6.5. So as we move through that project, we're being able to get what we want, make it better, and still put money away. So we're moving in a very, very positive direction as far as everything's going.
So are all of our bonds been funded now?
Yes. Julie, have you received the money?
Yes, we received it last week on the 11th.
So everything's been sold now.
Okay. And back when we talked March, April timeframe, because of the rains over the Christmas time, they were a little behind schedule, but they felt like they were going to make that up in the summer. so that the gym would still be on schedule?
We have
Is that still looking positive?
We have an updated construction calendar, and it is basically the same.
Okay.
As they get dried in and stuff, it shouldn't have as many weather days.
We're still scheduled, so when we come back from Thanksgiving break, we should be able to move in to both gyms, the boys, if you want to call it, basketball locker room, the girls' locker room, the new weight room, and the new training room. Concession stand, restrooms, so forth should all be open for us when we come back from Thanksgiving holidays.
Is that about when basketball starts?
Basketball practice starts the end of October. You'll see, a couple of weeks of scrimmages and so forth. May have a tournament. It'll be a tournament or something, maybe.
So you think the district games will be in our gym?
Oh, yeah. So the one thing that we had hoped is that, that construction would move forward, and we'd hopefully be able to put a volleyball game in there or something. But we'll arrange a inter-squad or something like that to be able to give them a chance for those girls that are seniors to be able to chance to play a volleyball game in their gym as well. So we'll work with them to make that happen.
I did speak, or a lot of people spoke to me last week after y'all's Rotary meeting, because you gave a presentation there.
I did.
And everybody was very positive on the presentation you gave, and I saw a few things on Facebook where they put some of the stuff on there. And like I say, I got a lot of positive feedback from people in the community and what was going on and doing. So kudos to you on the presentation you made for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We will move into the action items, and the first one on the agenda is to approve the adoption 24-25 district budget.
Anything else to add, Julie? Just a clarification that it does include
3%
a
raise
3% from salary, right?
from salary.
Okay. Anybody got any questions or comments? I will say Mr. Galloway has eloquently over the last month or half said that I would never vote on a deficit budget. I did say that in my past. It's unfortunate, I mean, that was from the logic that the state funded us enough money that we didn't need to overspend what they gave us. And in the 20 years I've been on the board, we've been able to comply with that, and in many years come up with excess to go back in fund balance, and our fund balance has grown over the years. Unfortunately, with our legislators not responding to the schools this year, there's no other option but to fund a deficit balance. With that, I would like Mr. Galloway to give you this so you can put it in the minutes. He wrote, I mean, it's something we can't, but and I don't know if we still do airtime or whatever. You don't have to write it because I'll give it to you. But
Okay.
The CBISD board approval of the 24-25 operation deficit budget is being done as an unsustainable one-time stopgap due to the funding provided by the Texas public schools during the last legislative session. CBISD will not be able to sustain this budget in the future without additional funds from the Texas legislature. We trust that the Texas legislature will provide, but if additional funding is not appropriated to CBISD, we'll be forced to make drastic decisions and reductions and/or seek measures such as the voter approval tax rate election evader and ask the CBISD community to support and increase the maintenance and operating tax rate of the district. That is something that we will continue to look at. It will be at the November election. We don't know if we're going to do it, but from what we understand, many of the districts in the area are looking at possibly doing that, and we will monitor that and keep the public abreast of that as we go forward. And if there's no questions or comments, I'll make a motion. We approve the 24-25 proposed budget.
I'll second.
Second by Becky. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you for the hard work y'all did.
And especially you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Champagne.
I hate to go out saying that I approved the deficit budget, but we'll ride off the sunset saying I couldn't keep my word. Y'all can put that on my tombstone when I die. I'm sorry. Next is to approve the staff's compensation for 24-25.
Okay, I have put this in your in your handout again, we talked about it at the special meeting last week. Again, the front page is the teacher scale. Again, the column in blue would be the 3% from salary, meaning as they moved up from step 0 to 1, it would be 3% raise in moving from each step. That blue column would be that. I did leave starting salary at 57,000. Well, excuse me, I moved it from 56 to 57,000. So if you approve it as is, that would be the teacher, nurse, librarian, counselor scale that we would use. Again, as you move to the second page, you can see we have the few teachers that we have are outside of this pay range. I have the number in blue for them as well. The 3% raise, which would be $31,000. And then for everybody else in the district except for administration, you can see I have the 3% highlighted, or the number in green, which would be the 207. And then for central administration and campus administration, the 3%. As well, employees with a given salary, meaning everybody that's not on the teacher scale that's coming into the district would have a salary that they've already been given, and that would be their salary. They would not get a raise with your motion. Employees outside of their pay ranges are included, and then staff on growth or performance plans, including fourth-year probationary, are not included. Okay.
And the 3% is what's built into the budget.
The 3% is what's built into the budget. I would remind you that you did talk at the special meeting that if the funding scenario was to change in some manner, that you would consider increasing teacher.
When I read the statement a while ago and we talked about a VADR, we did speak last week that if we do go forward with the VADR and it is successful, that most of the money will be used for that VADR to bring us in more compliance and in scale with the other districts in our area that we compare with from our salary survey, to try to get comparable salaries to them. So that's something that we're looking at for the VADR to accomplish, if we do it, to try to accomplish that and bring us more in compliance.
Correct. I just want to make sure we have that in the minutes.
Yes, in the minutes. That's the big reason why we would look at a VADR, is to try to bring our salaries compensation into a favorable situation with everybody else. Questions or comments? I'll make a motion, we approve the 3% presented on here for the scale that's included in the budget.
Second.
Ray seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you all very much.
I don't know if you want to speak or you can speak, but I know last week we met, you were meeting the next day or two with our representative Cody.
I did.
And I didn't know if there's something you could share.
I had the Missouri County Boy Scouts breakfast. I attend that most every year. Cody invited me to sit at his table this year. And so we did get a chance to talk a little bit about public education. He did address in his public, he was a guest speaker for the breakfast, and he did talk about public education while we were there. And both me and Phil Edwards, superintendent from Angleton, were sitting at his table. He did recognize us. That we were sitting at his table while he was talking about public education. So he did talk about the money that was earmarked for public ed that did not get funneled to public ed. He said that he felt that they would funnel that money this legislative session, as well as making an additional investment. So he was very positive about that. Vouchers was not talked about, but at the end of the day, that's a separate discussion, right? And so, that can be done or not be done without giving, that decision can be made separate and apart from giving money or sending money to public education. And so hopefully that's where it's going to happen. But he was very positive. He was very complimentary of the public schools in Missouri County that he represents.
Hopefully they understand that, the biennium they didn't fund is the largest inflationary period we've had in the state and the country for the last 20 years. and that what they had set aside, I don't know if it was enough to cover or not, but hopefully, like you say, hopefully they do understand they need more than what they just set aside. They don't need to funnel that money to the rainy day fund for something else.
Exactly, and I was glad to hear him say that he felt like they would send that money plus an additional investment. And he did publicly acknowledge that the school districts that he represents are hurting right now. They're in a financial bind.
I'm glad he said that.
So I was very, he couldn't have done any better with his public speech.
Good.
At that time, so.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Next is to approve the annual board meeting calendar of dates and activities.
You do have a one-sheeter in your packet as well. That's the draft. I think all of the dates except for the October date, I think fall on the third Tuesday. The October has 5 Tuesdays, and so we kind of bumped it down a little bit just to keep it in line with what we're going. So we would ask that you approve that.
Okay. Anybody have any concerns, comments, questions? Make a motion, we approve the annual board meeting calendar of dates and activities for 2024, 2025.
I'll second.
Second by James, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Next is the consent agenda, which is to approve the minutes, to approve the budget amendments and donations, approve the sale of property held in trust, and approve the TASB Board Policies Update 123. Would anybody like any of those pulled? Not hearing anybody, I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as approved, as presented, excuse me.
I'll second.
Second by Jackie, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Any other business we need to discuss? Okay. We will adjourn to closed session pursuant to the Texas Governmental Code, the Opens Meeting Act, Section 551.074, to consider the employment of professional personnel, discuss resignation and retirement of professional personnel, discuss the performance of personnel, and the superintendent evaluation. We will reconvene in open meetings and consider action on items discussed in closed session. Thank y'all so much for coming.
Thank you.